Hey guys, and welcome back to the show. If you're a first time viewer, my name is JP and I am here to help you make your very next video game. Today I'm going to be showing you how you can use HTTP requests to consume a web API. So GameMaker actually has some really interesting functionality that allows you and I to interact and consume APIs out there. Now, if you're wondering what an API is, it stands for Application Programming Interface and allows two different types of software to communicate with each other. I'm putting a link in the description to a really cool video that can help you understand and visualize exactly what an API does. Finding out that GameMaker had this functionality really excited me because I'm a full stack developer, so I consume and create APIs all the time. And I wanted to know how I can bring this awesome power to my video games too. So I went to my browser and I typed in GameMaker Studio HTTP request and hit enter. This is what I found. It's not a lot to go on here. I mean, there is the official docs, which are great. They have a few examples, a little bit cryptic at times. And we've got a tutorial by Benjamin. He covers basically the HTTP GET. That's it. It's a basic tutorial, gets you into it, but it's a little bit lacking in terms of a broader scope because APIs in general cover so much. I mean, there are 5 verbs. You got your get all, you put your post, and your delete. And I figured that I should show you guys how to do all of those things instead of just one of the verbs, which broadens the scale and allows you to actually interact with a broader amount of APIs in more creative and useful ways. Alright, so here we are within what I'm going to show you how to create. It's a simple kind of blogging, posting, commenting kind of experience. I'm using an API called JSON placeholder. It ultimately is a placeholder API. It gives us the basic endpoints we need to post, which is add, put, which is edit, get, which is get by ID, and get all, which gets us all posts, and delete, which will delete comments, posts, whatever we want to delete. So here's my example. On the left we have John Doe. Hello, my name is John Doe and this is my super awesome blog. Stick around and let me tell you all about myself. And here at the top I have get all and post. So post is going to allow me to post a new blog article, for example. And what we do is when we post, we generate some sort of JSON structure, which is a JavaScript object notation, which is properties, key values, basically things like that. And then we can send it off to the server, and the server creates the resource and returns an ID for us, which we can then consume and actually see what that post looks like. So if I click get all over here, I'm going to be requesting what's called a get. And if I click that, see it's loading, getting the response, and bam, there we go. I've told it to display one after each other the title of the post and the ID of the post. So if I go back to my browser and I type in JSON placeholder.typecode.com, fake online RESTful API for testing and prototyping, and we can go down here. It's a free online REST service that you can use whenever you need to need some fake data. There's an example. For example, this does a get over here. So if I run it, that tells me what a get by ID will do. And here's what they got. The resources and endpoints are posts, comments, albums, photos, to-dos, and users. If I click on one of these, it's going to do a get request, which shows me exactly what each of these does. Check that out. And if I do comments, and I can go albums, and I can do photos. Pretty neat stuff right over there. Now you can use your browser's URL to do the basic get all and get by ID requests. So with the hostname being jsonplaceholder.typecode.com, and I'm going to say /, and here I can say comments, just like this guy, and if I push enter, I'm going to get all comments. If I say comments /1, it means I'm going to get comments, but I'm passing in an ID of 1, so it's only going to bring me back this guy, which has a whole lot of lorem ipsum text. Enter. There it is, just one item. And this is the JSON structure with the curly braces. We've got the properties, post ID, ID, name, email, body, and we've got the values right over there. So in the case of this, what I'm doing is I am saying posts. That's what our get all is doing. See, these match up. One says sunt und facra blah 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 blah, just like that. If I say /1, I'm going to get just that very specific one, which is actually what's going to happen if I hit this get over here. So if I minimize the browser again, go back to here, and I click get, what I'm doing in this case is when I am creating these post objects, I'm creating a get by ID button, which has the ID, in this case a 1 attached to each get. That one's got a 2, and this one's got a 3. And if I click these, it's going to be doing that /posts / the ID, /1, /2, /3, and so on. So if I click this one, There we go. It gets the entire structure. There we've got the ID, we've got the title, and we've got the body. If I go back, I can go to someone else. Let's get all again. And let's go get over here. There we go, and so on. And I can also use put and delete. So in this case, this delete button is tied to this 7 ID. So if I click delete, it's going to then go ahead and delete that from the server. Now, because this is a fake server, nothing really gets deleted, but we do get a successful response, which means that if it did allow me to delete stuff, then it would be possible. So if I click it, I'm going to do a bit of a loading, and our response, if it is a success, will take us back to the profile screen. So let's hit delete, loading, 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 and success, because we're back here in the profile screen. If there wasn't a success, message maybe will pop up, or we just hang there on that screen. So let's do a post. Now a post is going to be creating a JSON structure, just like we saw here. So if we go ahead and create a structure that looks like this, without the ID, because IDs are usually assigned when things are created, not when we're posting to them. We give it a user ID, so that's me, for example. Maybe I'm a 1 or a 2 or a 7. I'm going to give it a good title and a good body. And then in my post request, I send this JSON to the server, which then responds saying, hot dog, it was created, here's your ID in return. Maybe if it allows me to do that, which allows me to then query it later on. So let's go back to optimizing that, back to our app. So again, I'm going to hit this post. There's going to be a bit of a loading. And if I'm still here in the screen, it means everything went well. So post, loading, 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 success. There it is, no errors. We're in Magic Land. So I'm going to get all again, go back to one of these gets, and next, again, we're going to be doing a put. So in this case, we can change things about this message. So we have the 2 is the ID, we don't want to change that. We've got the title, and we've got the body. So in your app, you could go ahead and you could make this editable, you could change the body a bit, and then you could click save, which does a put, because this resource already exists on the server, so we have to do a put. That does crunching, 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 successful, back to the profile screen, which means it was all good. Okay, so let's jump straight into the code. I'm going to show you how you can do this step by step. A lot of the look and feel of this little app has already been created to save on some time, but we're going to be covering those 5 verbs: the get by ID, the get all, the delete, the post, and the put. Okay, so here we are within the bare bones project. I've got all the sprites here, our get all, our gets, our posts, backgrounds, loading animations, the fonts, for example, and I've got the basic kind of objects that we use to interact with, but they don't do anything. If I expand my verbs group over here and I click on get all, you'll notice that it's all blank, and it's just ready and waiting for us to add some amazing code. So first things first, let's add a create event, which I'm then going to assign a variable that's going to be local to this object alone. It's going to be called get, and I'm going to set it to undefined right now because we're going to be using this variable later on. Next, I'm going to add a mouse event. It's going to be a left pressed, and in here I'm going to say get equals http get. We don't want to say https, http get, and we put in the URL. And in this case, the URL going by our browser is https JSON placeholder typecode.com posts /. With that, come back, paste it in. Now when I'm doing a get here to get all, I want to make sure that all notes are destroyed. Now notes are those summaries that we saw on the profile page, because I want to imagine that these notes can change all the time. So every time we hit get all, clear them out, we'll get some new ones. Now another thing, each one of those object notes are creating a get by ID button. So I'm going to say with all get by ID buttons, also destroy, because perhaps those IDs that are attached to those buttons aren't relevant anymore, so we don't want to get things that don't exist. Okay, so once we've made the get, we now need to listen for that response, and to do so we're going to add an asynchronous HTTP event. But also while we're doing that left press, I need to set global loading equals true. Fantastic. This global loading variable is attached to our loading spinner, which is invisible unless told otherwise. So in our async event over here, we're going to be listening for the response for that get. And to do that, we're going to need an if statement. If ds map find value of async load, identifier is going to be ID. So if that equals get, then we're in the money. That means this is the response we were waiting for. This matches the request we sent off over there. Now we need to check that it was a successful request. So another if dsMap find value, again on async load, and the status, oops, of that request was a 0, 0 means success. So if it was a successful get, then I'm going to grab the response string as a dsMap find value async load result. Okay, so if you've seen Benjamin's video, this is going to look very strange to you because it's slightly different. The reason being in this case is I'm not getting one, I'm getting all. I'm getting a collection. I'm getting more than just one thing. Now in actual fact, the string is not ready to be consumed. It's just going to be a JSON string, which could be an array of JSON objects, which we can't really do much with unless we process it into dsMaps and dsLists and things like that. So the next bit of code is going to be helping with that. It's going to output something where you can create little objects from. So what we do is with that string, I'm going to say var result map equals JSON decode. Always use JSON decode and JSON encode with these things because they're not coming back automatically as dsMaps. They are coming back as JSON objects. So here I say result string. I'm going to say var list equals dsMap. Find the value of the result map, and I'm looking for something called default. Now somewhere in the manuals and whatnot, there was a really good article on why I'm doing this, but I can't seem to find it for some reason. So basically, just to give you a gist of what I understand from it is, if you get an array of JSON objects back, when you decode your result map, there's going to be a value called default, and that default has a list of your JSON objects. So it's like an array nearly. So what we have to do is we have to convert that back into a list after we have decoded the result back into a result map or dsMap, which is a little confusing, but it does work. So once we've done that, now we need to grab the size of the list as how many elements we have in that data structure. And here I'm going to use dsList size, I believe, and the size of the list. Once we've got that, we can iterate through it, which is really fun. Now to create my posts on my map profile, room profile in this case, I'm going to be creating them over here from about 800 pixels down all the way to the bottom. There are more than I can fit on here, but it doesn't really matter for this demo. We only need to see what we need to see. If you want to know how you can scroll things up and down, check out my video on scrolling things in and out of the player's site. So for now we're going to say xx equals 800, y equals something around 75 to start, so it's going to be around there, and it's going to display them down and down and down and down. So let's go back to get all. Let's say var xx equals 800. Let's say var yy equals 75. I'm going to say for var I equals 0. I is less than size, which we worked out in line 9, I++. So now that we've got this for loop, what I want to do is I'm iterating through the list, and each one of the elements in that list can be converted to a dsMap. So var map equals dsList find value, and we want the value of the list at position I, and here I need to say var current equals dsMap find first of the map, while loop, while it's a string, that's the current element we're looking at. I need to go ahead and say var already exists. I've noticed that sometimes you can get duplicates in your response. For example, when putting this together, I hit get all and I had about 4 of everything. I don't know why that's happening, so we're just going to prevent that from getting into our system. So with the already existing notes, if the ID of the note is equal to dsMap find value map ID, then already exists equals true. Down here after this with, I'm going to say if it doesn't already exist, so this is a fresh one, I'm going to go ahead and say var instance equals instance create on the layer, at XX and YY on the instances layer, and I'm going to give this instance some properties. It needs an ID, it needs a user ID, it needs a title, and it needs a body. So that's ultimately the same things we were getting back from here: user ID, title, and body. And those different variables are then displayed to the screen in the draw event over here: title, body, ID, title, for example, and so on. So back up to this guy. So instance dot underscore ID, I'm using underscores here because ID obviously is a reserved word, and dot underscore user ID, and dot underscore title, and dot underscore body, and we can grab this dsmap find value guy, paste it over here, and I'm going to change this every time we paste it. This one becomes body, this one becomes title, this one becomes user ID, and that one's ID. So those are exactly as in here: user ID, title, body. It's going to put those into these variables right over here. Oh, and we actually need to say what we want to create. Object note. There we go. That's what I was complaining. Very good. Now with each note, I need to say info button equals instance create layer, and these are going to be at XX plus 400, so it's 400 pixels to the right of the little note title and body and stuff like that. YY plus 15, a little bit lower than the origin of YY over there. Again, the instances layer, and that's going to be object get over there. So this is the note and the button that we were deleting when we left pressed. We're deleting all of those instances of object note and the associated button. Now info button needs to be given an ID, so it knows who it belongs to. In this case it belongs to instance dot underscore ID, so that's going to be the same. So this ties these guys together. And then I'm going to increment YY by 60 pixels so that the next note gets placed below that. And after our if, I need to update current curr equals ds map find next map, and the key there being current. And after that's done, so this is the closing brace for the while loop, I'm going to go ahead and say ds map destroy. I need to destroy the map. And after that's done, after this closing brace for the for loop, I need to go ahead and destroy this list. ds list destroy list, and ds map destroy the result map, which was right at the top. So that cleans every little thing up. And once we've done all that, global loading is false, and we are living in happy land. So here's the closing brace for this if condition, which says is it a success or not. So if I put an else here, I can say else, and a comment that says this request failed. And I suppose you can set rstring equal to failed, just like that. And we don't have to do anything with rstring. We don't really care if it fails, but in here you can put an error message. You can pop up a box saying please try again later, check your connection, things like that ultimately. So let's save this. I'm going to go to our profile, make sure that get all is secure over there. So when I click this, it's going to destroy any instances of object get, which is here on the right, and any instances of the associated note, which is displayed here in the middle. And then it's going to do the request to the JSON placeholder and bring us back some real data. So let's power this up and see what happens. Cool, so here we are within what we've created so far. If I go ahead and click get all, we're going to see a loading because we set the global variable loading to true. And I'm also going to see eventually, after time, a successful result with our notes being created, and each one of those notes is going to have an associated get button, which is get by ID. So click, loading, loading, loading. Wow, that was quick. There it is. We have all our information: 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. It's the same result as that we get if you go over here and do posts. It's like that. Loading. There they all are. Back to our little app. Next thing we've got to do is click on get and get some information, save it to some global variables, and head on to the detail page. So now I'm going to show you how to do a get by ID. So let's close our room. Don't need that. Close some of these objects. Let's head to object get over here. Doesn't have anything in it right now. We're going to change that. Again, let's add a create event, and in here I'm going to say get equals undefined. This is the variable we're going to be using to check our response. I'm going to have a mouse left pressed, which is going to do the same as the get all with one slight difference. So let's go here, let's copy this guy back to our dude. Where is he? Over here. Paste. Now if we go to our browser again, JSON placeholder.typecode.com/post. Again, like I showed you before, if I do /1, I get by ID, I get one thing, because this ID is what the API consumes as being the identifier of the thing I want to get. So if I copy this, paste it in here, I can extract this guy like that. But obviously we want this one to be not just one, we want it to be anything. We want it to be the ID that's associated with the node. So every node created this get. And when we did that in our get all, we created that info button with something called an ID. And this is the ID we can use to then do our get by ID. So I'm going to replace this with _ID. Simple as that. But for safety, I'm going to wrap this in a string conversion. There we go. And that's all we need to do in the left pressed. Again, I'm going to add an event, asynchronous HTTP. Now we need to listen for the response. I'm going to go into my get all. I'm going to copy pretty much all this code back into our get. Paste it in here. I'm going to get rid of everything here. All of this can go. Just like that. So it's also called get, so that's fine, that doesn't need to change. As long as the request is a success, we are grabbing the response string. Then I'm going to create a local variable here called note, which is going to be a JSON decode of the response string. Now this one's more straightforward because it isn't an array of JSON objects, it's just one singular JSON object. And because it's one JSON object, I can go ahead and put that into this note variable, which JSON decode creates as a DS map. And then simply I can say global.noteID, global.noteUserID, global.noteTitle, global.noteBody, and all of these is equal to DS map find value of the note DS map, the ID property. Copy, paste, paste, paste. This is the user ID property. This is the title property, and lastly this is the body property. And once I've got all those properties, I can go ahead and tell it to change to another room. This is going to be our success, room info, just like that. And there we go. In the else again, this request failed, just set the result string to failed, and we don't really need to do anything else with it for now. Now let's run through how that'll work. So in my profile, when it creates our list of notes, each of which have an associated get by ID button which has an ID attached, I click that. It then does the left pressed event, does the get, using that ID as the get by ID in the string of the URL. Then our async is going to be listening for that get. It gets a response. Response is a success. We are grabbing that result string. We are converting it from a JSON object to a DS map. And then we are simply setting these globals up to the values of the DS map that we are interested in. And once that's done, I'm going to the info room. Now if I head over to the info room, you'll see some things. More info on the right, you'll find more information about this post. Please soak up the magic. So in here I have a question mark. This question mark is a note detail. Now I only ever need one note detail object at a time, so I've just placed it in the room and it's going to be consuming those global variables. So if I go into note detail, into the draw event, it says, center the draw horizontal alignment, make it /xgamesLime, set the title over here, which is going to have the text extended of the note ID, a colon, and the title, and it's going to be wrapping over there. Then we've got the body, which is also an extended draw text, which just has the global note body, and that's as simple as it gets. So now we can test that if we click get all and we click on one of the subsequent get by IDs of one of the notes that comes back, we should get information, head to the next screen, and display the very specific information for the ID associated with the button we clicked. Alright, so here we are again, John Doe. Hello, my name is John Doe. Let's click get all. Very quick loading indeed. We've got all our notes right up here, each of which have an associated get. This one's ID is 1, this one's ID is 2, and etc. If I go ahead and click on the get with the ID of 1, remember SHIB get, it gets it by ID, loads it into those globals, and sends us to the next page. And notice here we have the 1, we have SHIB, this is the exact title that we saw within the previous guy. And here's the extra information. Here's the body that we didn't see. If I go back, get all. For ID 1, we didn't see the body. We're not displaying it here. This one gets more detail for that. Alright, so I'm all out of time for this video, unfortunately, but I'm going to be bringing to you a part 2, which we're going to be covering the put, the post, and the delete, which is really going to blow your mind. So I hope you found this tutorial educational and helpful. Please feel free to comment, rate, and subscribe. If you haven't already, please do subscribe. I do appreciate your support. If you want to get more involved with my channel, check out my Patreon. I do appreciate your support. Project files straight in the description. I do invite you to go check out those supplementary videos in the description. Some things about what an API is, describes it in more creative words than I can possibly do within my time frame. If you haven't entered the competition yet, you've still got about a week, is it? 10 days or so before that ends. If you want to win some great tools, link in the description. And until next time, happy coding, and I'll see you there for part 2.